Good morning, and for some good afternoon. I don't know where to begin. I'll try to make this as brief as possible and very difficult to fit this in a video short enough for everybody's convenience. They end up being hours long, and I don't trash them. I know most of you don't have the time of day or the patience to sit through 20 minutes of something you like. We find ourselves scrolling through, hitting the 10-second advance button or more, so I apologize for that. Also, I really don't mean to be kind of tacky. I'd rather write a formal letter with proper cursive and in ink writing to the president. However, I'm in too much pain to either write or text or fill out an email, so I have a lot of trouble breathing, especially when I talk. But I figure this is going to be the best way with the least amount of physical pain involved for me to get through this. So again, I apologize for that. I'd much rather be more formal, a little bit whether better dressed than this, but these are the only clothes I have. So again, my apologies. Moving forward, I can't begin to describe to you. I can't find the words dark enough, strong enough to express the amount of pain and, quite frankly, the hell I've been through in the last 5 years. Excuse me. It goes beyond 5 years. It all started with the first round of government health care that I encountered, which was bad. I followed the law. I did what I was told. I've used the resources the government pointed me to, law enforcement pointed me to. Forgive me, I don't have professional equipment. Just kind of an old cell phone, so the camera will flash off from time to time. Anyhow, I didn't do anything crazy. I didn't harm anybody. I didn't harm law enforcement, myself, or someone else. I didn't break the law in order to make money, even in my most desperate moments, which continue to this day, for food, clothes, medication, or anything else. Not even when my medication ran out and I withdrew from medication, experiencing severe withdrawals, seizures, foaming at the mouth, pain, loss of sleep, sweating, and an escalation of symptoms, pain, yet not being able to breathe. I followed the law. I did what I was told. And I ran into nothing but people breaking the law. Not in my favor either. And there were no consequences to this day for any of those people. Doctors, nurses, government employees, doctors employed by the Department of Health and Human Services, down to the county level, who gave me my care, who administered antipsychotics, antidepressants that ruined my health and even further damaged my mental well-being. Just to name a few, I went from no sleep. Sorry, it takes a second to catch my breath every now and then. From no sleep to sleeping 17 hours a day. I went from running 10 miles a day and modeling and having muscle to what you see now. One of the reasons I look down and away from the camera, because I can't bear to look at my ugly self. On camera. No one wants to date this. No one wants to have a cup of coffee with this. It's not all about looks, but somebody with no money, illness, depression, anxiety, you bet. Nobody wants to believe in me. Nobody wants to stand behind me, not even the people that wrong me face consequences. I face the consequences to this day. There's no compensation. There's no government program available to me that I paid for with my tax dollars. Well, I shouldn't say nothing at all. I did get food stamps, finally, after fighting for them for years. But I must say, having nothing and only getting much less than the adult maximum for somebody who has nothing Sure, I get disability, but manage to be a couple $100 overdrafted every month and live off 20, $40 a month in your pocket. Being forced to look online, looking for ways, legal ways to make money. Scraps, chicken scraps. Most of those are fraud. Most of those scam your bank account, further harming you. Furthermore, it seems that apps and businesses, online businesses, banks, are allowed to either allow fraud or commit fraud and get away with it. They get away with taking your money. Anywhere from a few dollars, or as in my case, thousands of dollars of money I didn't have to begin with. Never mind the fact that I'm a law-abiding citizen, that I did the right thing. Never mind my pain and suffering, my losses, not brought on to me by my own decisions, but it's things I didn't ask for, things I didn't work for, things that I didn't follow the law to receive in return. I guess you could say I did make mistakes, like accepting medical care, applying for benefits, and taking that stinking vaccine, specifically the mRNA vaccine. To this day, my latest illness, which put me in the hospital for a year solid, roughly, followed up by mostly another year, second year in the hospital, followed by a nursing home. Very little care afterwards. Rehabilitation because of budget cuts to the hospital, budget cuts to your insurance. Yet, if you're here illegally, you can get thousands of dollars on your EBT card, tens of thousands of dollars in cash. I have coffee. At least when I could afford the cup of coffee, I did. Used to be the only way I could get out, and I'd lug my oxygen tanks in the car. Wonderful physical therapy, especially when you don't get any anymore. Someone else's car since mine got taken away. When I became unable to pay for it anymore. Not a new car, not a fancy car, an old broken down car, which I'm fine with until it nickels and dimes you to death, of course. Nobody likes that, not even people who have the means to live, the basic means. They don't even like that. But at least I had something. Now the car I borrow is breaking down. My roommate can't afford to repair it, as you can see by the shape of the place I live in is falling apart. A 50-year-old mobile home. I sit in front of a TV tray and a plastic chair. The couches are full, other than the cats, of mold and mildew. It's probably not good for them either. They just refuse to sleep on their bed by choice. It's held up by push pins, the ceiling, the cabinets falling over the place. You think it looks junky? Because we're trashy people, as I've been told by reporters that are live on the news. Once. No, I'm not a pig that can't take out the trash. With the mold, the mildew, and water pouring in every time we get our Southern California 100th of an inch of rain. We have to move stuff around. We can't afford storage. We can't even afford our rent. I did have one benefit that came from the government outside of the small, very small amount of disability, which is impossible to survive off of, especially in Southern California. Next to my oxygen tank and the equipment to keep me breathing at nighttime, I got a hospital bed. The bathroom, cracked bathtub, full of holes in the wall, stuffed with toilet paper to keep the animal feces, the cold and hot air from flowing in and out. The small mobile home heater, $10,000 to replace. The swamp cooler, which does not effectively evaporate in the coastal areas, but at least it's something. $5,000 minimum, I believe, without labor to replace. Kind of hard to do when you don't even have $20. I'm not trying to show you this for sympathy. I just want people to see we don't have nice things. We don't blow our money. We're not irresponsible. And I'm not judging anybody who is. I want people, not just irresponsible people, to have nice things. I want people to have nice things. It's the American dream. Whether you have a little money or a lot of money, I want people to enjoy their trips to the casino, lottery tickets, vacation, nice cars, a nice place to live with clean air and air filters. I want everybody to have these things. It's not that people aren't allowed to just because I don't have them. But I don't even have a pair of shoes. I wear my slippers out and those have holes in them. But people shouldn't be able to have these things in our country by being here illegally. Well, I can't even afford a pair of shoes. They should not be able to get tens of thousands of dollars in gift cards, Visa and MasterCard, or have that on their EBT card. Legal citizens can't even get a maximum amount of money. Or if I were to get the maximum amount of food stamps, I believe it's $2.95, and I get maybe even a third of that, which I'm grateful for. But considering it's $13 for a carton of eggs, I can't afford it. I try to get permission from merchants. If you're wondering how I survive, I don't do well. To dig in trash cans, to pull out lottery tickets that people scratch off rolls of them. A lot of people do. But some of the people I have coffee with, they got that cash to play the lottery from the government, and they're not even here legally. How can I have coffee with these people or spend time around them? Because they live in my community. I can have coffee with them because I'm not hateful. I'm not racist. I don't even hate them for knowingly taking this money and these benefits that are rightfully mine and every other citizen in this country. Because they knew that's not the way we normally do business here. But they knew the government was giving them out. Our governor in California announces it live on television, including the free health care, free prescriptions, coverage, mental, dental health, hospital stays, whatever they need for their entire family. Receive for free 100% at taxpayers' expense as long as you're here illegally. My stay in the hospital, I could barely get anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds with a doctor. However, I saw hundreds of doctors that way over time. You stay a year or two in the hospital, you see hundreds of people, not to mention the follow-up care. Hundreds of doctors. If you're here illegally, since our governor enacted that law, giving free health care to illegals and everything they need, I saw them getting hours with doctors and nurses coddling them, barely paying any attention to me. I saw them getting pain medicine every time they asked for it, every half hour to an hour. Addictive medication, opioids, 8 times stronger than morphine, Dilaudid, sometimes more. Every half hour, every time they asked. I was left yelling and screaming in pain for weeks, which bled into months, which bled into now 4 years. Excruciating, end of life, end stage type of pain that cancer patients have, or worse. Except I have to go home and live with it. The medication and the technology is there to take over care of 90 to 100% of the pain at times, and I'm told I must still go home with 60 to 70% of that pain and just deal with it. And I said, I can't. And the doctor said, you're going to have to. Why? As I said, a couple hundred doctors you see over time, more. Eventually someone talks. Why? I kept asking the question why. I kept hearing because of the fentanyl crisis, the addiction crisis on the street. The regulations are strict. I said, who is stopping me from getting the care that I need? The medication I need to stop my pain is there. Why can't I have it? Finally, a doctor opened up and talked and said, as long as I wasn't recording or using their name in a news media report or anything else, the government. Sir, it's the federal government. I said, that's it? I said, no, the state government, especially here in California, leans in on that. Even prosecutors and lawmakers. Which ones? I said, all What, Democrat? There's a lot of them. But here in Orange County, California, we voted for the prosecutor here. Conservative, same thing. Throwing 12 doctors in jail, at least at the time. Don't quote me on that number now. 12 doctors in Orange County, California are sitting in jail right now, he told me. 10 to 20 years of their life, if not more, if not life. I said, why is that? Because their patients died under their care. I said, how? They died from cancer, from vaccine injury, heart attack, stroke. A lot of them had terminal illnesses. And I said, well, why would they be prosecuted? Because they were on an opioid. They deemed their death because of overdose. So didn't they die from terminal cancer? Well, yes, but that's not what they wrote in on their death certificate. And then the doctor was prosecuted. Innocent doctors sitting in jail. There should be consequences for those who break the law and write prescriptions for profit. It turns out, as it does happen, it's few and far between. The other reason I'm told is because the government says my medication is too addictive. There's a chance I could become an addict. There's a chance I could get sedated and stop breathing. It's never happened to me. I'm told by the doctors, well, they say it's already enough. You can't handle any more sedation. I'm not going to say how, but as a scientist, I decided to conduct an experiment. It turns out I can handle sedation. Way more than what they're giving me. I can be forced into sleep, which I need because I have lethal insomnia now. Probably thanks to the pain and the medical fiascos that I've gone through, aside from the financial. Some PTSD, depression, anxiety, trauma there. Oh, yeah, you bet. That comes when you're left in such excruciating pain for years. It comes to people that have proper medical care. If that's not enough, if you're here legally, as I said, you can get anything you need. The same rules don't apply. As much as we need the government to step in and fix these things, at least we do now, we want them to step in and make a law asking themselves to butt out. Let my doctor decide how much pain medicine to give me. Let science and the facts decide. Stop lying to me. Stop forcing and threatening doctors to where they are. They want to lie to me to protect themselves, their careers, and their family. And even then, I call on doctors and nurses to step out and protest. Well, we can't do that. We're short-staffed already. And I say, you want to go ahead? Give me the wipes so I can wipe myself while I'm in the hospital. Go out and protest. Wheel me down there with you. I'll deal with the pain for an hour or two. The hot sun, I'll go out with you. Let make yourselves heard. Tell them enough, no more. Let us treat our patients with the technology and medication we have and stop the government from threatening us, from telling us what's too addictive, what's good for our patients, and what's not. You have to have some laws and some regulations, of course. It's just gone way too far. And as I hear doctors and nurses talk out in their cubicles, being in the hospital for 2 years, you hear a lot. And they talk about things maybe they wouldn't talk about right in front of you, but you hear it. Hospitals getting rid of morphine altogether, anything based from morphine, anything addictive, not using pain medicine anymore, except for maybe Tylenol. And if you're lucky, Tramadol. Something that made me very sick. What do you think leaving a patient in pain does? You don't want to live. How many suicides have occurred because of this? Not me, obviously. You want to know why? Oh, I had a razor blade to my throat. And when I called for help, you want to know what I got? The 988 suicide hotline gave me 10 breathing exercises to deal with anxiety. I was so disgusted by the lack of concern, the lack of care, and after advertising to us on billboards and TV how important it was to receive care for mental health, especially if you're going to harm yourself. I was so disgusted by this that I took the razor blade off my neck and I set it down and I decided to stay alive and fight. Apparently it hasn't been enough. How many people get driven to suicide or to harming someone else? How many people self-medicate for the pain? You become so desperate you're willing to get rid of the pain at any cost. How many people go out and use a product on the streets? whether it's legal marijuana leading to addiction and other drugs, or an illegal substance. How many people steal because they can't afford that or the prescription drugs? It's not an excuse, but it's a valid reason. How many more people are driven to that? Well, I can tell you one thing from my own experience, and you can't unconvince me of this because not only did I live through it, but I saw it in person day after day. As I went and dug the lottery tickets out of the trash can looking for any money I could find. So you can't work a job when you're on disability legally. Haven't even broken that rule. Not that I'm perfect, it's just all the major ones, a lot of the small ones, I've abided by the law, and I've gotten screwed. Nearly lost my life, and I've been left in pain. But as I go out there and I do these things, try to just get out of the house, get some movement, gain some muscle, regain some strength, laying in that hospital bed doesn't help you get your muscle back, especially when you don't have physical therapy anymore. Didn't matter. I couldn't do physical therapy because I couldn't sleep, and when you don't sleep, you don't have the strength to do it. You don't even get out of bed to go out to dig in a trash can or to talk to somebody when it reaches a certain point. I forced myself to do it anyway, but I went out and I talked to people who were not only here illegally, asking me, why can't I get the government? They take care of it, take care of everything, I'm told. Pay your school, your medical costs, your prescriptions. Why are you worried about how to pay for your prescription? Tell the government. You get even more if you have children. I kept telling them there is nothing else. Any services that were there have dwindled or have been cut. So can you explain to me how someone here illegally can get all of that? Or with 3 jobs, 2 cars, and a house full of people making tens of thousands of dollars each, can get the full amount of food stamps with no questions asked? And me, not a drop. Usually after lots of verification, lots of questions in an interview, and what I went through, interrogation in a room, as if you're a criminal. That's right. The reason they gave me for this and getting denied for so many years was the social worker specifically told me, because you're white. And I said, that's illegal. You can't do that. And they said, that's true. But good luck trying to prove it. It's your word against mine. Well, that's right. An appeal and nothing else helped me out there. No attorney would help me. Everybody said it's a lost cause. And that the people I were having coffee with came back to me and said, it's true. I'm sorry. You can't get all these benefits that I was trying to tell you about because you're a citizen. She asked me if I was mad. And I said, no, I'm not mad. I am, but not you directly. Well, maybe I should be because they know what they were doing was wrong, whether the government offered it to them or not. But what did I see there in the shopping center in front of this coffee shop and liquor store that existed there 4 or 5 years ago when all this hype started over cutting our pain medication, and the years that followed all the way to now? All over billboards and TV commercials, radio ads coming from the government itself. The addiction crisis on the street, even used as a campaign tool. Not just by Democrats or Republicans, by everyone. Their hardline policy, getting rid of pain medicine for people who are in need of it, threatening doctors, innocent doctors, even threatening me, dangling my medication like a carrot on a stick. How dare they, by the way. Threats of drug tests, raids by the DEA, 4 pages front and back of commands from the government telling me what I can and can't do. Yeah, what did I see? Ever since these hardline policies went into place, that went way too far. I saw 4 or 5 years ago 5 drug addicts, some of them homeless, most of them were, some were 5, hanging out in front of that store. Now, there's a whole homeless encampment, sometimes during broad daylight. I think they may be trying to clean that up. Well, the police told me they're not allowed to touch homeless or addicts anymore unless you can prove there's a violent risk. And even then, sometimes they can't do anything. They're afraid of frivolous lawsuits and what the government now calls legal action they can take against officers for excessive force, even when they do their job, protect themselves and their lives. What did I see? It went from the count of about 5 addicts to near 70. Occasionally it's down to 40 or 50. And certain times of the day or night, you won't see anybody as people go to sleep or move around. up to 50 to 70. So no, these policies did not help the crisis out on the streets, not at all. What happened before that? What about the first round of bad government care I received? County mental health? They didn't check my blood work. They didn't listen to me when I was talking about the side effects of medication. They threw maximum doses of multiple antipsychotics at me, medications that made my condition worse. It caused me to go from this here. Bear with me. I'm speeding through things a little bit faster if I can to conclude this. I went from looking like this as I sought care there. Not the best looking thing in the world, but I was in shape. Decent looking. I mean, I could model if I wanted to. Work a full-time job. At least to the point where I lost my mind. I needed mental health care. At least I had my health. But I went from that to this. The doctors didn't listen to me. They just moved me around. And here's me after the vaccine. I guess maybe I look a little better than in this picture, huh? Not because I ate a bunch or neglected my health. Nope, nothing like that at all. Because I took the medication they deemed, just like the vaccine, safe and effective. They said mostly safe and effective. The vaccine, they said 100% safe and effective. I should have known better because as a scientist myself, I was taught in first grade there is no exact science. None. So how could something be 100% safe and effective? I also know from the history of medication that some of the stuff that's killed people and harmed people is also used to save lives effectively when it's used in a safe and effective environment. When there is proper policy and not overkill, or too little and no control at all, and no consequences for those who misuse it. That's when things go south. But we have the ability to take stuff that's had lawsuits and deaths and black box warnings to turn around and cure what used to be incurable diseases. What about the mRNA vaccine? If they would admit to where it's harmed people, what great things could possibly come from that? Maybe nothing at all. But then again, how do we know? Because now what you get is this. To this day, doctors cannot contradict the CDC. Vaccine injury, won't discuss it, won't diagnose it, won't treat it. I heard that all this that I've gone through in the vaccine in the last 5 years, nearly dying 3 or 4 times, having my heart start shock back into rhythm once while I was awake. All that could have been prevented with one shot, one medication. They call it an antidote. The government said I can't have it. Worse yet, leaves your life in pieces and your health in pieces. I can't buy a pair of shoes. I can't get a shower chair that I've applied for 4 times from the state and or Medicare. I can't buy a cane or a walker. I can't afford it. Can't afford my pain medication, the very little that I get. I can't afford my breathing medication. It costs anywhere from a couple hundred to several $1,000s a month, more than what most people make working a regular full-time job. Even then, what would you do? Not pay your rent, not pay for your car, not pay for your kids, just buy your medication? Maybe somebody who had a full-time job, a credit card, loans, and people helping them, maybe. Most people can't not sustain that. There's no compensation, there's no help for any of that. Because vaccine injury doesn't exist. To this day, doctors can't treat you for it, and the government says because this medication was used during a pandemic, a national emergency, you can't sue the government for it. You can't ask for resources. You can't say you were injured. You go before a special panel and claim vaccine injury. Very small percentage, less than 10%, get the compensation of just anywhere from $500 to a couple $1,000s at most, I heard. My hospital stay alone had to cost taxpayers $1 million, if not more. Why can't you prove it? Because the government says the evidence doesn't exist. Even a doctor or nurse told me that. And one doctor outside of this country. Apparently, doctors from around the world look to data that comes out of the United States to better inform them and help their decisions in saving lives in their country. Now, the last 5 years of data, roughly 5 years, we're going on about 5 years. The 2025, the pandemic. Yeah, well, 5 years. It's just missing data about vaccines, vaccine injury, COVID. Sure, there's some data, conveniently, mostly in the government's favor and in favor of the drug companies. Drug companies like Pfizer, which have been tied into Biden and the Democrats' pockets. Games and apps like the ones I look for that play for free. Some charge you. Trying to earn money for free illegally. Yeah, they scam your bank accounts. Apparently banks get away with it too. Like $18,000 of fraud taken out of my bank account. Money I didn't even have. Lots of proof and evidence. And you can present it. I had it. Screenshots and recordings. Hours of research. See, I can't find an attorney to help me. Even with all that proof and a bank promising protection, if anything like that would ever happen, can renege on that, pull out. They know I can't get an attorney. They know how much money I make. Very little. And there's no regulation because they have a 150-page or 20-page disclaimer in fine print one that most people can't read nor understand without an attorney present. Google, the richest company in the world, at least one of them, with over 6 billion accounts worldwide, can pick one word out of your YouTube video, your social media post, and go, we're going to cancel you. We're going to take your content off and censor you. Just a couple of words. At any moment in time, automatically, let alone if a person actually looks at it. They have the technology. Yet, they claim, oh, there's too many accounts. We can't deal with the fraudulent ones. So they get to stay on here. And Facebook can advertise for them. So can Instagram. And they can get away with it just because they say so, or as most commonly is known as a disclaimer. With that said, I'll be coming near a conclusion now. I'm going to read a list, very strongly recommended, and in my case I'm asking for it. Executive orders or other action that can be taken to help Americans out in this position, to prevent this from happening to begin with, and to compensate those who have been unlawfully harmed. Before I do so, people, please just think about this. Whoever's listening to this, if anybody at all. When someone is physically harmed and or killed in this country from something that's negligent, like an mRNA vaccine, up to a couple million people potentially dead on our soil, one death or 10, 20,000. There's already 1 or 10 or 20,000 too many, but a couple million people, we won't even investigate. The data has just gone missing. We see when someone is harmed negligently, let alone killed, it's called negligent homicide under the law and or murder. And by our own government, on our own soil. The technical term for a couple million people dead would be genocide. Has anybody thought about that? This is a lost cause. There's nothing we can do about it. People shrug their shoulders. People don't want to fight. I call on people to step up and share their stories. Not everybody's picked up a phone and done a video, make themselves look stupid, having to stare at their ugly mug for an hour. Talking in the thin air was what it seems like. No, most people just curl up, cry, yell, scream, keep silent, and just die. Or they survive, unfortunately, like I did. Everybody shrugs their shoulders. There's nothing we can do. Oh, well. Want proof? Living proof of what this has done to me? I am the proof of it. You're going to wipe me out too? I believe somebody already tried that somewhere. And you leave us high and dry. So, Before I read you the list of executive orders I'm asking for, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't have a legal team or anybody editing for me. I'm trying to make it sound as professional, as legible as I could, if you will. But, maybe some of these things are already being worked on. I always see the government doing wonderful things right now very quickly. The executive action, at least they're trying. I know a lot of people fighting it down. A bunch of baloney. And the news media is not telling us the truth either. So I did a lot of research. I may have some of these facts wrong because the news media and other sources aren't telling us the truth. But in the event you've already done these things or you're working on them or being blocked, I do apologize. But it sure seems like some of these things haven't even been addressed. And even though you're doing a wonderful job trying to eliminate waste and trying to help the American people, I must say, we need to work even faster. That help can't come fast enough. If it doesn't save my life or someone else's, it might make things a little bit easier for whatever little bit of life we have left. So if you could please hurry it up a little bit more. As grateful as we all are for you guys working really hard like you are now. If you could go just a little bit faster without being offended by that. I'm putting it rather lightly, just hopefully I haven't used any bad language or anything like that at all. I mean, just so you know, a lot of the pain I hold in, see, pain leads to yelling, screaming, crying, cursing, physical breakdown, mental breakdowns, all kinds of stuff that I don't want on camera as I'm writing the president of all things. This doesn't look tacky enough the way I got to dress. The background, again, I do apologize for that. You see, if I could have it my way, I would show up watching myself in at least a dress shirt, pants and shoes, and a tie. I'd be knocking on your door, and when let in, I'd be speaking before Congress or somebody who gave a crap. You'll excuse that expression. So before I head into the list, and I'll conclude with that because I know at 37 minutes, whoever's watching is probably dying to get on with their day. Myself included. Excuse me. We hear of $8 billion a day at least. $8 billion a day being saved, being found in waste, and potentially they don't want to call it a stimulus, a dividend check, something going back to the American people. The news media says taxpayer. Just me. What I want to say is people say, oh, well, they already know about all that. Maybe they do, but if you see something, say something. We certainly don't do much of that anymore, do we? Because maybe someone missed something. Well, the news media reports, like I said, a lot of information we know is corrupted or false, or twisted, or things are left out. So the news media says it's the taxpayers only making $45,000 a year or more if they were to issue a stimulus or dividend check or something like that from, what do they call it, Doge. Well, don't forget the lower income people is what I'm trying to ask for. Some of us on disability, Social Security, that make under $24,000 a year, we don't owe taxes, so there's nothing to file for. So don't forget us. Don't forget the disabled citizens who don't pay taxes. Even they, as a citizen, are entitled to these taxpayer services. It's their right. It's our right. If I understand my law correctly, it is our right. Something we seem to have lost sight of until recently. There's just a lot of people fighting it. So if you do issue that, like I said, the help can't come fast enough. As much as we don't want too many handouts or government overspending, the incentive to get off your hiney, excuse me, and go back to work. Unfortunately, people could still use the help. We do need some intervention. We do. Things are really bad for a lot of people, and from what I understand, even worse than what I'm describing to you here today. So with that said, I'm going to go to the list, get past my beautiful pictures, of executive orders or action that I'm asking for. I think I might have excluded that, but not only the part of not forgetting the lower income people if you issue a stimulus or I will hope restitution. I don't like the word reparations. Yeah, we'll stick with restitution. For those who've been harmed by something like the mRNA vaccine, but also stricter regulations preventing fraud in large companies like Google or other apps or games, stuff on the internet, to just not be able to get away with doing whatever they want and only the consumer paying consequences. A lot of people say the BBB, Better Business Bureau, if I have the words right there, is worthless. You can't report to the government, to law enforcement, to any of these safeguards, to your bank. Everybody just gets away with everything. Theft, essentially. So definitely need some stricter requirements there. Though on what I have written down, an executive order to end requirements forbidding doctors to contradict the CDC and or the federal government. Executive order placing immediate funds for resources, legal help, medical care, and compensation for vaccine injuries. An executive order removing the ban for the PrEP and or any other, the PrEP Act or any other executive order and or government programs such as CICP that prevents anyone from suing for vaccine injury and for damages related to pain and suffering for anything that's used by the government during an emergency. That's not right. An executive order immediately removing government controls, including legal threats to doctors who legitimately issue pain medicine to patients with a chronic illness, terminal illness, and or chronic pain, allowing patients and doctors to decide what level of medication and care is appropriate to control the debilitating pain. Pretty much the same as I would ask for with vaccine injury. Let the doctors decide and use the technology and medication we have freely. That would be the key part. Inappropriately. Those two items. An executive order allocating immediate funding to patients who receive negligent mental and or medical care from a government provider, and a complete overhaul, including county health services or Department of Health and Human Services. I believe that's already underway. That provides the most mental health services, not just to your average Joe, American citizens, but also to the homeless and citizens below poverty levels. And I'm sure even people who come here illegally, they're in detention centers. They receive care from the government as well. We pay for a lot of care for those people. An executive order which allows doctors to prescribe sleep aids and anti-anxiety meds to patients who already receive care for health conditions that require opioids and or other medication that's proposed or deemed otherwise addictive by the government. An executive order which allocates funding and measures to deal with the opioid addiction crisis on the street, which will clearly separate this issue from patients receiving pain medication and or under the care of their doctors for legitimate health conditions that require the same and or different controlled substances to treat serious health conditions in a safe and controlled environment. And I'll expand very briefly. My lethal level of insomnia, meaning I don't sleep for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time, maybe a quick doze for a few seconds, a couple of minutes, no REM sleep, that is lethal. If you want to look up the effects of that, you can look up a similar condition, FFI, which would be the genetic form of lethal insomnia. I believe it's FFI, but you can search lethal insomnia and find information on that. You get about 6 months to live, maybe a year at most. It's been going on a year and a half with me, so I've kind of outlived that. Just that alone is seriously damaging your health. We've been told loss of sleep causes critical and lethal illnesses and diseases for decades now. Try no sleep at all. It is lethal. Let alone the mental conditions that can come from that. A lot of them temporary, but it's totally treatable. The government says, sorry, we can't give you enough medication to deal with that because the government says it's too addictive or it might sedate you too much. Please sedate me so I sleep, The chances of death, by the way, from such a medication, at least one that works, are less than 10%. Same for addiction. less than 10%. The chance of death from lethal insomnia, let alone insomnia at all, is 100%. So it makes no sense what you guys are doing right now. An executive order allocating more funding to increase food stamp benefits to those who legitimately qualify for it, specifically the disabled and elderly, and include, I don't like the word reparations, so strike that, please, back payments or restitution for what we've been unfairly shorted through discrimination, which includes citizenship status, race, gender affiliation, and so on. Meaning legal citizens being turned down because they are a citizen. That's completely wrong. Illegal. An executive order which requires anyone here legally who received cash benefits, medical care, and or food stamp benefits, welfare, or anything else from taxpayer dollars to pay it back and proceeds from recovered funds, either there or otherwise, to fund current and new programs and to restore former programs that offer assistance to U.S. citizens in need that legitimately qualify for these benefits. Now, I doubt this lands on the president's desk or anyone else that gives a crap, cares. I really don't like to sugarcoat things, but I try not to curse or even come close to cursing. Not an easy thing to do when you're left in this kind of pain. And you've been wrong. Left to die, nobody cares. Again, thank you for your time, especially if you bear to sit down and watch this whole 46 minutes of this. Bear with all this. I appreciate it. I still hope, since I can't seem to get out of the hundreds that I've contacted, maybe thousands of attorneys and reporters nationwide, to get my story out and people with stories like mine or worse. Still hope someday for me or someone like me to be able to stand before Congress or other groups of people that have the authority to change this. Maybe the loss of my life can help those. Excuse me, I'm not feeling so well. Stand up for change towards what's legal, what's right in this country, rather than just sitting down and not doing anything about it. We can take responsibility for that part. If more people did what I'm doing today, writing the president, joining a peaceful protest, if they were allowed to, even when they tried, some have been thwarted, some people's legal rights have been thwarted. But if we took more of an initiative to be heard, maybe these things wouldn't be happening at all or to this degree. I realize that no one person has the full authority to do these things, but you do now. People in office do actually have that authority. As we've been showing the last 4 or 5 years, unfortunately. We hope this can continue to turn around. I think it's shameful that people think this is petty and childish, writing the president. And just so you know, before I bothered the White House with this, let alone the president would actually see this, which I really doubt. Know that I didn't do this right off the bat. I tried to fight it myself. Utilize all my resources first. Whatever government programs or resources that were out there. Turns out there's not many, if any at all now. Before bothering any of you with this. This is really last resort. If I ever am allowed to get my life back at all. If I ever get compensated or appropriate medical care at all, I guess maybe be a little more comfortable as I wait to die. Maybe my dreams are crushed. The straight A's and a perfect SAT score, I think 5 points away from it, trashed. Maybe I can make some use of that someday. College degree, job. Maybe I can be doing what I always dreamed of. So I don't bore you with another hour or two, or I could go on a lot longer. If you want to know what my dreams were, look up Reed Timmer. I'd be doing what he does. Saving lives with real science, facts, technology. used to warn people severe weather before it strikes. Data which will help us save lives in the future. It's sad to hear, on that note, that lies, climate control, climate change, global warming have been uploaded into our supercomputers, numerical forecasting models, which process up to 3 trillion atmospheric equations per second, have had lies uploaded into their system. Somebody I know at the National Weather Service told me the government did that in the last couple of years. I tried to fact check and find out data on that, and there's none available at all. That sure is a shame. If anybody would like to know in the future, which I doubt anybody does, or see that I have gifts there that are being thrown away, I can prove it. But I won't bother here with that now. Thank you for your time and for your efforts. Everybody have a good rest of your upcoming weekend, and both God bless and God help America.